Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhagavati Naishtaki. It's my great honor and privilege to be with all of you here in ISKCON Gurugram. It's quite rare for people to come together to want to hear the glories of Krishna and Hare Krishna. It's quite rare for people to want to come together and hear about Krishna, and especially when we can come together on an auspicious day such as this one, Dussehra. It gives us an opportunity to receive a boost in our spiritual practices when it's honored properly. So when I was thinking about this class, I was told it was kind of just a general topic of Dussehra. So I chose a verse which comes from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Sanatana Goswami, and it's a verse which is recited by none other than Hanuman, glorifying Lord Ram. And I'll read, we were trying to display it, but I think it didn't work. So I'll read the Sanskrit myself, and then all of us can read, or then I can read the English. Is that okay? Atapi Sakavajaya Karuna Kalama Atmani Avraktra Baba Prakritva Arya Dharma Pradakshake Ekapatni Vratadvare Sada Hinaya Vidaya Lajjaya Vantana Srimad Vandedo Vilokane Jagat Rajana Sildaye Yodhya Pura Purandare Maharaja Divaje Shri Sita Lakshaman Sehate Bharata Jayasi Preshta Sugrive Varaneshware Vibhishana Shrite Chapa Pamano Dasharata Bhaje Kausalya Nandane Srimad Raghunatha Svarupani Sashvasmin Adyati Ki Priti Mama Te Naiva Vardita. So this is Hanuman speaking to Narada Muni in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Anyone who knows about the Brihad Bhagavatamrita knows that it's a search for the pinnacle of devotion, the zenith of devotion. And Narada Muni is traveling practically all over the universe, interacting with various types of devotees, trying to find the most refined form of devotion. And everywhere he goes, he gets redirected somewhere else. So at this particular stage of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Hanuman has been glorifying the Pandavas. After having been glorified by Narada Muni, he's glorifying the Pandavas' devotion, and they reach such a pinnacle of ecstasy in their glorification of the Pandavas that Hanuman is considering leaving his service in Kimpurusha Loka, where he's been asked to stay by Lord Ram, and go to Hastinapur or Dwarka, wherever the Pandavas may be residing, in order to receive their grace, blessings, and instructions on the science of devotional service. But at that moment he restrains himself, and then he recites this verse. And the English is, even so, I simply feel more attracted to the Supreme Lord in his eternal identity as Sri Ravana, the son of Dussehra, and joy of Mother Kaushalya. His heart always tender with natural, unaffected compassion. He is spontaneously attracted to loving exchanges with his devotees, exchanges free from any tinge of duplicity. He demonstrates how to follow properly the religious duties of a civilized people, and he upholds the strict vow of having only one wife. In the shyness of innate humility, his face always looks downward, his eyes fixed on the ground. His exalted character is pleasing to all. He stands with bow in hand, the King of Kings, the hero of the city of Ayodhya, served by Sita and Lakshman, and with Bharat as his older brother. He rules the race of monkeys as the dear friend of Sugriva, and gives shelter to Vibhishana. By my hearing of the pastimes of Krishna, the unlimited loving attraction I feel toward my own master has increased. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kudamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha That when the Lord appears, he does so through a variety of expansions of his own self. And as we know in the Bhagavad Gita, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata Abhyutananda Dharmasya Ratmanam Srijamyaham Paritranaya Sarunam Vinashaya Chadushkritam Dharma Samsthapat Arthaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. That the Lord comes with his associates and his intimate companions, age after age, for the purpose of giving satisfaction to the devotees and subduing those who are of an envious nature, which create trouble in the life of the devotees. And Paritranaya Sadhunam, this is the primary function, to give joy to the hearts of the devotees. Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Anusham Dehamashata Bhajati Tadrasi Grita Yat Shrutva Tat Parobhavet. That the pastimes which the Lord displays in his various forms are there to attract our minds. And he does this through his various expansions. Vande Guru Isha Bhaktam Isham Ishvaratadikam Taprakashas Tatakshaktir Krishna Chaitanya Samjikam. That the Lord is existing as his very own self, as Bhagavan, and he's existing through his various expansion in the form of Nityananda Prabhu, which in Ram Leela is none other than Lakshman. And then there's the form of Advaita Acharyas representing the various incarnations of the Lord, the Shakti, which is Gadadhar Pandit and Mother Sita in Ramayana, and there's Srivas Thakur, who represents the Bhakta. And to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead factually means to understand these 5 truths in total, Panchatattva. So this is the special feature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, is that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, all the other incarnations are put into perspective, and how their pastimes functions, and how we can actually understand the depth of those pastimes in truth, and the nature of how these various truths of the Lord interact with each other in order to perform this pastime of Nugrahaya Bhaktanam, attracting the minds of the devotees. And we see specifically in the character of Hanuman an example of a devotee in his relationship with the Lord. Please forgive me. I thought I left this in my water. Please forgive me. We see in the relationship of Hanuman with Lord Ram a specific example as to how the Lord is interested in attracting us into his service. And this is quite relevant for us because the nature of Hanuman's devotion is glorified not only by the Ramayana, but it's actually glorified by our own acharyas. Narottam Das Thakur in his book Prema Bhakti Chandrika explains that the Ekanta Bhakti of Hanuman is the ideal example for devotion and fixity. And we see this displayed principally in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when there is an exchange between himself and Murari Gupta, who is none other than Hanuman in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Murari Gupta is asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to take up the chanting of Krishna's names. Take up the chanting of Krishna's names because this is the Nam Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is interested in directing everyone towards the worship of Radha and Krishna. Shri Radha, Radha Krishna Paraya Rikatir La Dini Shaktir Asma Ekap Atma Bhuvi Purada Deham Betam Gatauto. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Radha Krishna combined. So the worship which the majority of his followers are directed towards is the worship of Radha and Krishna. That's why you'll find in Gaudiya Vaishnava temples, the deity of Radha and Krishna is generally at the center, because our Ishtadev is Radha and Krishna. So he's being encouraged to engage in this chanting of Hare Krishna. And when Murari Gupta is offered this suggestion or request or order by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he stays up all night in anxiety, lamenting the fact that he's going to have to give up the worship of his dear Lord Ram. He can't do it. This is also mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, like we were mentioning. Despite the fact there may be something beyond his standard of worship, he feels fixed, he feels satisfied in that mood of dasya, which he has found in serving Lord Ram, that no other form of the Lord appears attractive to him. So Murari Gupta is lamenting, and he goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he's thinking in the night, maybe I should just kill myself. What's the value of even living? Because if I have to go on living, and I can't please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then what's the value of my life? And if I have to give up the worship of Lord Ram in order to please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what's the value of living? He was in a conundrum. So when he approaches Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the next day, he falls at his feet and said, please forgive my offenses. I cannot follow your instruction. I cannot give up the worship of Lord Ram. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu congratulates Murari Gupta. He says, you are the perfect example of devotion and fixity, because glorious is a servant who can't abandon his master, and glorious is that master who will not abandon his servant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, they help illuminate the pastimes of all the other incarnations of the Lord. Without the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we won't be able to understand the essential feature of the pastimes of the Lord. But through the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and through the vision given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are able to access the deepest lessons which are existing within the Ramayana, which are existing within the Srimad Bhagavatam, all by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So before we begin any glorification, we should always begin with the glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Hanuman's journey to Lanka is evident of this fixity of devotion, and the effect this fixity devotion has on our heart can be understood by deeply contemplating this pastime of Hanuman going to Lanka in order to free Mother Sita from the imprisonment of Ravana. So, the pastime begins with Hanuman being selected by practically all of his superiors, Sugriva, Jambavan. They all agree that if there's anyone who's qualified to save Mother Sita, or find Mother Sita rather, it's going to be Hanuman, because his determination is so strong in order to serve Ram, that if there's anyone that can be successful, it has to be Hanuman. And Lord Ram, hearing the opinions of all these exalted devotees, such as Jambavan and Sugriva, agree that there cannot be anyone who will be able to find Sita as effectively as Hanuman. So in this moment, Lord Ram specifically blesses Hanuman personally by taking off his ring, which is inscribed on his name, Sri Ram. And he gives this ring to Hanuman, and he says, wherever you find Sita, you give her this ring to confirm that you are my valid messenger. Wherever you find her, you give her this ring, and this will convince her of your validity. So Hanuman, being encouraged by Ram, has a purpose to meditate upon. The service becomes even more crystal clear in his mind. And being encouraged by the words of Sugriva and Jambavan, in that all of the Varnas, all of the monkey soldiers of Lord Ram, they will be performing austerities until Ram returns, all the monkey soldiers, they stand on the shore of the coastline, and they all stand on one leg, meditating on giving strength to Hanuman. So Hanuman, feeling encouraged by his association, being encouraged by the personal instruction and blessings of the Lord, he takes that mighty leap across the ocean in order to end up in Lanka. But along the way, he's met with various obstacles. The first obstacle, anyone know what the first obstacle which he had to meet was? Mainaka Mountain, right? Right? Is that what you said? Mainaka Mountain. This was a mountain which was specifically blessed by Lord Indra to protect this realm from the attack of beings from the nether regions, demoniac forces which may be coming from the underworld. So this mountain was existing, and this mountain, being a devotee of Lord Ram, wanted to offer some service to Lord Ram. But Lord Ram, but Hanuman, when he comes to this mountain, time is limited, and he realizes that his mission is so important that he does not have time to stick around and receive the comfort which is offered by this Mainaka mountain. Shri Radha Damodar, Shri Gauri Nitai, Jagannath Baladev, Subhadra Mai Ki Jai. So, when Hanuman sees this mountain, in order to offer respect to the mountain, he simply touches it with his hand and says, I offer you all respect, but the service which I'm doing is so urgent and so important, I cannot give it up. As Hanuman continues in his journey, there is a test which is offered by the demigods. Who knows what the name of the test? What's that? What's Sosa?
She's like the womaness who finds her mouth.
It's Surasa, right? Surasa. Is that right? Surasa. Surasa, she meets Hanuman, and she's sent by the demigods, and she opens her mouth, and Hanuman, he feels anyways, and she says that Lord Brahma has offered me a benediction that anyone who comes past me, they have to enter into my mouth. So Hanuman, he says, all right, you can eat me, but first you have to see if you can meet the size that I can expand myself to. So Hanuman begins to expand himself, and then Surasa's mouth begins to expand, and there's this competition where they're growing and growing, and then Hanuman realizes this is completely useless. So then he immediately shrinks to the size of the thumb, enters into Surasa's mouth, and then exits and said, I have honored the benediction of Lord Brahma. Please now allow me to continue in my service. Surasa gives him her full blessings, and he may go on in his service. So then as he's getting closer to Lanka, immediately along the way he becomes stopped. And he's wondering what's going on. Am I losing potency? Have I received a curse? And he's been caught by Samika. Is that right? Samika? Please forgive me. You all grew up hearing Ramayana and just adjusting to it. So Samika catches Hanuman by the shadow. And Hanuman looks and he's wondering, how will I escape this circumstance? So you can see that she's eager to eat him. So he strings to the size of the thumb again, enters deeply into the mouth of the stomach, and begins ripping apart her stomach from inside. And then he exits, and she falls flat in the ocean, and he gets free. So all these obstacles which Hanuman faces, how is this relevant to us? Because in our own life of practicing Krishna consciousness, as we learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the path of devotion is not walked on a path of rose petals, but generally speaking, commonly speaking, more often than not, the path of devotion is filled with hundreds and thousands of thorns, Kala Kalir Valarindriya Vairi Varga Shri Bhakti Marga Iyakanta Kakoti Ruda. Prabodhananda Saraswati says, now the age of Kali has come, the senses are very strong, my desires are out of control, and the path of bhakti has been littered with hundreds and thousands of thorns. So our service and the field of activity which we have to do in our service, more likely than not, more often than not, will not be aligned with our expectations. Rather, they will be the only certainty which we can expect on the path of devotion is uncertainty. And Hanuman's journey to Lanka exemplifies this. And as he reaches Lanka, he meets another obstacle. He meets Lanka personified, who's a Rakshashi demon. And she is preventing Hanuman from exploring Lanka. And so he says, I will go around the city and I will leave the way I have come. And she says, no, you will not. And she slaps him in the face with her left hand. Hanuman immediately gets up and understanding her strength and understanding she's also a woman and he can't kill her, he punches her hard enough that she becomes knocked down and simultaneously understands the strength of Hanuman. And she remembers that once Lord Brahma offered a prediction that the day that I become defeated by a monkey, soon Ravana will be killed. So she understands that this prophecy has now become true. And Hanuman begins to explore the city of Lanka. Now the city of Lanka is more opulent than you can possibly imagine. There's gold walls, not a speck of dust anywhere, extremely clean, rooms simply for the purpose of pleasure. And as he goes around Lanka, he sees that it's just a scene of sense enjoyment, left and right, of the highest grade of sense enjoyment. And he gradually finds himself into the inner chambers of Ravana. And in the inner chambers of Ravana, there are maidservants who are scattered throughout his room, sleeping on top of each other, some partially dressed. And Hanuman begins to think, have I broken my vow of brahmacharya, having cast my eyes on naked forms of married women? And then he begins to reflect. He said, no, my service is to find Mother Sita. And anything I've cast my eyes on has simply been for the purpose of finding Mother Sita. So there is no sin, there's nothing I've done wrong, my consciousness has not been contaminated. So he goes on with his search, and eventually he becomes so distressed because he's not finding Sita anywhere. And he begins to think that if I don't find Sita, Ram is going to die. If Ram dies, Lakshman will die. If Lakshman dies, Bharata, and what's the fourth brother's name? Satrughna. He will also die. And if they all die, then Sugriva will die. And if Sugriva dies, all the monkey soldiers will die. And it will all because I failed in my service. I failed in my mission. So when Hanuman begins to think this, he says, I will not give up. I will either die, I will either fail in my mission, and I will not return, or I will die trying to become successful. So he gains new strength, and eventually he casts his vision and he finds a grove of Asoka trees. And in those Asoka trees he sees Mother Sita sitting there, being guarded by thousands of Rakshashi women who, some of them, they have noses on their foreheads, and some of them are dwarfs, some of them are hunchbacked, they're extremely ugly, guarding Mother Sita, and Mother Sita is in such a lamentable condition. And Hanuman, he sees Ravana entering, and Ravana tries seducing Sita once again, and he says, my dear princess, your face is so beautiful, your form is perfect. How can you spend your youth simply lamenting over this Lord Ram who will never come here and save you? Better you become my queen, and you will be given all fortune, all facilities for enjoyment. Why don't you just join me? And Mother Sita holds up a straw between her and Ravana and says, I will never touch you. I have been married under religious principles, and I know that Ram will come and save me. I would rather die than touch you. And Ravana becomes infuriated. He says, if I was not blinded by my lust for you, I would kill you right now. But in 2 months, 10 months have passed, and I have given you 1 year to agree to become seduced by me. If you don't succumb to this request within 2 months, I will surely kill you. No more will my lust blind me. And this, Hanuman is observing all of this, and his heart is aching, seeing the abuse which is being cast upon Mother Sita. As Ravana leaves, the Rakshashis begin to harass Mother Sita unlimitedly. And eventually they become so exasperated with Mother Sita's disposition that they eventually depart ways and give her some space. And in this moment, Hanuman begins to think, how can I tell Mother Sita? Should I speak in Sanskrit? Should I speak in the tongue of Ayodhya? If I'm not careful, even a perfect plan can be spoiled by an imperfect executor of that plan. By a mistake of a messenger, even a perfect plan can be destroyed. So, let me begin to glorify Lord Ram the way that I heard Lord Ram speak about Mother Sita and his agony of separation from Sita. Allow me to glorify Lord Ram in this way. So he begins glorifying Lord Ram inside of the Asoka tree, and Mother Sita begins looking around. And after he finishes reciting these beautiful verses in glorification of Lord Ram, like the one we were reciting this morning, Mother Sita finds him and he introduces himself. He says, my name is Hanuman, the servant of Lord Ram. I have come here to deliver this message to you. And then, giving her the ring, he says, I can save you right now. I can free you from this chaos. Please come with me. She says, Hanuman, first of all, you're just a monkey. And not only that, you're a very small monkey. And then Hanuman begins to expand. I can put you on my back, and I can save you now. She says, that's very nice, but I don't desire to be touched by any man except for Ram. Hanuman, understanding your chastity, he promises her, I promise you that Ram will come and save you. That Ram will come and save you, and Ravana will be killed. You mark my words. So before Hanuman returns, he does a side mission. He decides he wants to do some espionage to see what is the power of Ravana's infantry. So he begins to go around Lanka and begins to destroy the various chariots and military paraphernalia which they have. And eventually he finds himself in a tussle, being chased by Ravana's soldiers, killing Ravana's soldiers, and eventually he is caught by Ravana's son, Indrajit. And when he's brought before Ravana says, don't kill him, I want him to be interrogated. I want to figure out who he is and why he's come here. Eventually, Hanuman says, anyways, I'm just a monkey. I was, jumping around trying to find some fruits, and then someone tried killing me, so I defended myself. And then they started to press him a little bit more. He said, fine, I am the servant of Lord Ram, the messenger of Lord Ram, serving under Sugriva. And I have been sent here to deliver a message. Ravana, if you do not return Sita immediately, you will be killed. And Ravana, receiving this, is taken aback. He becomes completely infuriated. He says, we should kill him immediately. How dare he come to our land, vandalize everything in Lanka, and then speak this way to me? And then Vibhishan, he says, my dear brother, he's just a messenger. The rules of war indicate that you cannot kill a messenger. And Ravana says, fine, but he should be punished. Monkeys are very, very proud of their tails, so let us set his tail on fire. So they set his tail on fire, and Mother Sita, understanding what's going on through the rumors of the Rakshasa demons telling her in the Ashoka garden, she begins to pray for Lord Ram for Hanuman's protection. In praying for Hanuman's protection, she prays that please do not let this fire harm him. So although the fire is burning on his tail, it's not paining him at all. So Hanuman realizes that Mother Sita's prayers are protecting him. So then he immediately takes advantage of this fire tail and starts burning the entire city of Lanka. And Srila Prabhupada in his purports frequently says this is how anger is used in the service of the Lord. He gives the example of Hanuman. And Hanuman, right when he's about to leave Lanka, he goes to the highest point in the city of Lanka and declares, unless you convince Ravana to return Sita, I guarantee you that he will be killed. Please convince him to return Sita immediately. And then he jumps and he calls, Jai Shri Ram! So why is this pastime relevant to us in Dussehra? This is not the killing of Ravana. This is not Lord Ram releasing the arrow. But actually it has very deep meaning for us. Because if we want to understand the Master, first we should try to understand the mood of his servant. Hanuman's devotion, Hanuman's fixity of purpose, and Hanuman's desire to serve is the prerequisite for us to slay the Ravana which resides inside of our heart. Ravana, when he is fighting Lord Ram, his limbs, Ram keeps cutting off the limbs of Ravana, but they keep growing back. In the same way, in our practice of devotional service, there is a Ravana residing within our heart, which is known as Hridaya Durbhalya, Hridaya Durbhalya, weakness of the heart, which Srila Prabhupada describes as a desire to want to enjoy this world and then double down and expand the resources for that exploitation. Our desire to want to enjoy this world, even if you touch it a little bit, that a little bit of enjoyment, it expands the propensity for it. And within that expanded propensity is the womb of misery. And what is that misery? Soka moha bhaya. Lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. This is what arises. This is the womb of suffering which arises from trying to overlord this world, take the position of trying to be the master of everything that we survey. And as much as you try to cut down bhukti mukti sprihayava pisachi nivartate, as much as you try to cut down these witches of material enjoyment and the desire to get free, bhoga tyaga, they continue to dance inside of our heart. Tavat bhakti sukhasyatra kadam na. As long as that these desires for enjoyment and getting free from the sufferings of this world are present within our heart, the true bliss of devotion can never be tasted. So this desire for enjoyment, this desire for liberation is like the Ravana dancing inside of our heart, which Srila Prabhupada calls in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Hridaya Durbhalya. And the arrow which Ram releases into the heart of Ravana is the only thing which can kill this Ravana. This arrow right into the heart is the only thing which can kill Ravana. So in the same way, this Hridaya Durbhalya, this desire to want to feel a sense of entitlement toward the things of this world, or to justify our activities of material sense gratification, This needs to be cut at the root. And this can be only cut at the root if our propensity to serve is awakened. So this arrow which flies into the heart of Ravana is this Nishta Bhakti, which is exemplified by Hanuman. Unless we cultivate this spirit of fixity and service, tasman ekena manasa bhagavat sattvatam patihi shotvayas kirtvayas yascha smartvayas deha pujas cha nityada. Unless we develop this fixity and purpose, that now I'm giving everything to you, Krishna. As Srila Prabhupada said, everything for Krishna, nothing for me. Unless that fixity arises in our heart, the Ravana stage of Anartha Nivritti will continue to torment us, will continue to weaken our efforts to make spiritual advancement. But if we can hear the pastimes of Hanuman, then that hearing, that process of hearing, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, Ridanti Astohi Badrani, Vidu Noti Saritsatam. That Vidu Noti, which Srila Prabhupada describes as a cleansing agent, is like the arrow which flies into the heart of Ravana and kills our propensity for this Hridaya rebellion. So on this day of Dussehra, we're not only remembering Lord Ram's victory over Ravana, but we are remembering Hanuman's victory in conquering the heart of Ram. That from his devotion, from his willingness to serve Ram with such fixity of purpose, with no consideration of personal comfort, entitlement, or justification, Ram felt so overwhelmed by the devotion of Hanuman. Why does Ram feel so overwhelmed? Because Ram has nothing that he can reciprocate with. He has been cast into the forest. He is not a king at this point. Although he is a king, he has none of the wealth of a king. All of the Varnas, they're only serving Ram because of their love for him. So Ram, feeling so overwhelmed by the risk which Hanuman was willing to take, the determination with which he executed that risk, Ram can only reciprocate by embracing Hanuman. This is what is celebrated in Dussehra. Is that as much as the Lord has the propensity to kill our demoniac desire, which is like Ravana, in the same way, the Lord is even more eager paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya chaduskritam, to reciprocate with the pure devotional sentiments of Hanuman. So I seek all of your blessings that on this day of Dussehra, that the words which I am speaking can actually become a reality in not only my life, but the entire world. Swasastu vishvasya kalo prasiditam dayantu bhutani samam matodya manastapadram vadatara moksaje aveshitam no matirapi hoitaki. That in this world which is so overcome by this Ravana-like desire for power, prestige, and position, that may all these envious people give up this propensity and turn towards the service of Krishna and become enlivened by the Sankirtan activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. So we can open it up for discussion.
If there are any questions, devotees can raise their hands. Pranam Prabhuji.
You were explaining the obstacles on the way to Lanka, which Hanumanji faced. So what is Simha representing? What obstacle is that in the lives of devotees?
Simika, from my understanding and what I've heard from other devotees, Simika is this enviousness of other people which tries to pull us down in our life. But despite the fact that there may be people trying to pull us down from our position, our determination should resemble Hanuman in such a way that despite the fact there may be that obstacle, we deal with that obstacle methodically and dispassionately, and we move on with our service. As my Guru Maharaj often says, although the caravan may bark, the dogs keep going on Sankirtan. The saying is generally that although the dogs bark, the caravan keeps moving. So in the same way, there'll be so many obstacles, internally and externally, but through a mood of patience and prayer and a desire to want to go on serving the instruction which we've received from higher authorities, the obstacles which are put before us by envious people, which Srila Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is natural, that those who want to spread the Krishna consciousness movement will surely be met with the obstacles which are placed before them by men who are like cogs and dogs. That is natural, he says, but if one adheres to the instructions of the 6 Goswamis, one can overcome those obstacles and the desire for the transcendental service of the Lord will be fulfilled. So adhering to the instructions of the 6 Goswami means carrying forth in our service despite the fact there may be obstacles, and seeing that the mission of our previous acharyas continues on into the future. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions from Mataji's side? और किसी का जो एक बार विषय हिंदी में सुन रहे थे उधर कोई प्रश्न है तो हाथ खड़ा कर सकते हैं। अगर जो भक्त हिंदी में अनुवाद सुन रहे थे तब ऐसा अगर उनके प्रश्न है तो हाथ खड़ा कर सकते हैं। I have a question, Prabhu. First of all, thank you so much for the most amazing Ramayana translation I've heard so far. I was comparing today's Dussehra, and at least in North India, the whole celebration is so, I would say, distinct from philosophical aspects that you shared. So there are no Ravana effigies, very tall. So like one in Delhi is like 120 feet tall.
Oh my God.
And
That's impressive.
So they are filled with crackers, they are bursted and people enjoy it. Hardly there are discussions, of the kind that you initiated and that you described. Teachings are also like how more important than killing Ravana and celebrating his, his, I would say, assassination, or I don't know what's the appropriate word. It's more important to meditate upon like the anarthas that we carry in our hearts, and which can be killed through devotion to Lord Ram as Hanuman practiced and as we can learn from him. So thank you so much, and I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to know, like, when did you first come across Ramayana and what was your feelings when you first read the text? Because today, we live in a world where we see so many stories, and it is like the most amazing story for me that, or one of the most amazing stories that mankind, can probably have access to. So, what were your feelings, and when did you first read the Ramayana? I was curious.
Well, I first heard about Ramayana about 10 years ago, around this time actually. And I had read about Hanuman in a Mayavadi book. When I was seeking a spiritual path, I came across it in a book which Mayavadi had written, and Hanuman was glorified extensively. And the only thing which made sense in the book, I'll be completely honest, the book really frustrated me because none of it made any sense and it didn't give any clear direction. It seemed very emotional and unsubstantial and lacked purpose. But I remember the one thing which stood out to me in the entire book was that Hanuman is the perfect servant of God. And that really captivated my mind. So I remember I have the book, and there was a picture of Hanuman inside of it. I ripped the picture of Hanuman out, and then I threw the book in the trash. And I hung Hanuman up on my wall. And I would meditate on Hanuman as much as I could. sincerity. And I remember my meditation was that I would be meditating on this picture of Hanuman, and I would just repeat this sutra, I guess you could say. And I would just say, I am an eternal servant of God. I'm an eternal servant of God. I'm an eternal servant of God. And I would just repeat this to myself over and over again, meditating on the picture of Hanuman. And, you know, hearing about Hanuman in this book, I naturally became attracted to wanting to read Ramayana. So in May of 2015, I ordered a copy of Ramayana off the internet, which was actually, I came to find out just recently actually, that it was a copy that was written by a devotee. It's a very small edition. It's very much compacted edition of the Ramayana. But it's written by a devotee named Rancho Prime from London, or Rancho Prabhu, he's a Prabhupada disciple. So he rendered this version of Ramayana, which is quite concise, an abridged edition. And I remember reading that on my way to Southern California with a group of friends. And I remember just feeling very attracted by the story, specifically the story of Hanuman crossing the ocean of Lanka. And when I first received Srila Prabhupada's books, I remember meeting the devotee, and I asked him, "Who are you? What are you?" And he said, I'm a devotee of Krishna. And at that point, I had never heard such a conception before, that you could be a devotee of Krishna. I never heard the word devotee used in relationship to anything. But at that time, I already had a practice of chanting Ram's names. And I even had bought a sticker of Radha and Krishna at a local gift store, thinking it was Sita and Ram. I was quite ignorant. But somehow Krishna, in the end, his way of finding himself into my life. So when the devotee told me that he's a devotee of Krishna, I told him, well, if I'm a devotee of anything, I would want to be a devotee of Hanuman. And I've thought about my journey in Krishna consciousness in relationship to Hanuman many times, and I feel that because of having that picture and seeing it and having that attraction to Ramayana, really, before I even came across Prabhupada's books, by the mercy and blessings of Hanuman, inconceivably, somehow I was able to come into the association of devotees, even though I don't deserve it, and I'm still wondering how you're all keeping me around. I feel very fortunate to have been blessed with the opportunity to come in contact with the glories of Lord Ram, even before I had seen or heard Srila Prabhupada's books. And when I read Srila Prabhupada's books, what captured my attention was what I heard those years before, that Hanuman was the perfect servant of God. And when Srila Prabhupada says that the highest conception of life is to be the servant of God, I felt this is the life for me. Whatever this person is saying, whatever this author, Srila Prabhupada, is saying, whatever he's saying must be true, because the highest thing which I've come to understand before, he's bringing even more depth to it. So that's a few words about my own journey with Ramayana.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I did not know that you had such a deep connection with Lord Hanuman. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I want to know this, that whatever pure devotees will come, pure devotees like Hanuman, Prabhupada, they will undergo so many struggles. Why? What is the reason? Why we have to help them?
What is the reason why the devotees will undergo so many struggles for the Lord? Is that what you're asking? For love. Anyone is willing to do anything if their motivation is love. Just like a mother, she's willing to rise so early in the morning in order to take care of her crying child. And a father is willing to work so many long hours in a company which he may not like. But what's the driving force behind it is that there's some love there. And there's a limit which we have in our material relationships, but the inconveniences which the devotee is willing to accept for the service of Krishna is innumerable. As Kunti says, Vipada Shastata Shashvat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavatam Darshanat Yatsat Apranam Bhavadarshanam. That I pray that these inconveniences come over and over and over again. Because in the midst of these inconveniences, I'm able to see you over and over again. So actually, we should not expect an easygoing life in devotional service. We should expect a life full of uncertainty, a life full of reversals, a life full of disappointments. But those disappointments, those reversals, are only offered by the Lord to intensify our eagerness to remember Him, to depend on Him, and to fully surrender to Him. So these obstacles which are put in the life of Srila Prabhupada and put in the life of so many devotees, they're there to set an example for us. That this is where you should be going in terms of what you're willing to sacrifice to serve me. This is the standard. Please come to it.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for giving us this nectar of Lord Ramchandra and Hanuman and this right body and giving us the lessons from his pastimes. We got to know that you are also involved in Nitai Jindra Basachi party. So can you tell us more about what this is all about, what you do? Because we have heard from one Bharata party during Shiloka time. So can you tell us more about what is it?
What is the bus party? The name was offered by my Guru Maharaj's grace by Sheshta Prabhu when I had a desire to expand the service of traveling Sankirtan. Unfortunately, that hasn't completely materialized the way I would like it to, but I've recently been relocated to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. So I'm hoping that the concept of Nitai Jiva Doya will expand, and all I can say in relationship to your question is TBA, to be announced. My efforts with the Nitai Jiva Doya party have mostly just been me traveling with one other brahmachari for the past 8 years, all over the country, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books at music festivals. And our most honorable achievement, which was recognized and blessed by His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, was we distributed 100 Chaitanya Charitamrita sets in the course of 2 months. And just recently, in the course of 4 weeks, traveling to Utah, Mount Zion, Arizona, Zion National Park, Arizona, and Idaho, our team did a total of 22 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, 4 sets of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and yeah, that's it. So we have a mission in North America right now, and actually all over the world, to expand the global distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam through the festival of Vajra Purnima. And the more that, especially the devotees in India, can begin to think about how do we expand this mass distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam, the better. One thing which we've recently adapted in North America for traveling Sankirtan, to see that university students are given the opportunity to get Srimad Bhagavatam, is we have adopted the method of Tamal Krishna Maharaj and the Radha Damodar bus party, in which when Srila Prabhupada told them you must distribute big books, he came up with a scheme that they would distribute small, medium, and Back to Godhead magazines. And as when people would give higher prices up to that point, they would just give them more of the small and medium books. And giving them more of those small and medium books, that would cover the price. So someone gives $5, you get 2 medium books or 2 small books, and then a Back to Godhead magazine. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he came up with this strategy that instead of giving them more of those books, you just give them a smaller book, and that increases the profit margin. And then every once in a while, you start giving out these big books. And from applying this scheme, the Radha Damodar Bus Party became the biggest book distributor in North America of big and Maha-big books. So we've recently developed a similar strategy where we distribute small and medium books, and people give an average donation $5, $10, and we just give them those small and medium books. And then when people come up and they show interest in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a policy of pay as you like for students. That students, they generally don't have money, but they may have a desire to read Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the mood of Nitai Jiva Doya, we make the price of Srimad Bhagavatam pay as you like, or PAL. So people just, if they have a desire, they can give whatever they like for it. They can take the full set of Srimad Bhagavatam, and by doing this, we are able to expand our distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam, expand our distribution of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is our humble efforts in Srila Prabhupada's book distribution service, but to be continued, because I hope that next time I come, I can have more news regarding the activities of the Nitai Jiva Doya Bus Party.
So on the Bhadra Purnima, we watched live Visheshika Prabhu in the ISKCON temple. So how they were numerous scholarships for Srimad Bhagavatam, and devotees sponsored 11 Bhagavatam sets, 21 Bhagavatam sets, 5. So that was a very encouraging drive on the Bhadra Purnima day in the ISKCON temple. So what is your experience when you say you approach people as you pay as you like? So how much students or the new person, how much they donate, how they receive that?
Well, generally, if I'm presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam to someone, they've qualified themselves through their extraordinary amount of sincerity at the table. And it's clear that they're going to take something to begin with. So I just ask them the question, how much do you like to read? I say, well, I really like to read. I said, you read a little or a lot? And they say, I read a lot. And then I point them to the Srimad Bhagavatam. I say, this is the spiritual encyclopedia. And then I make it a point to glorify Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit in my presentation to receive their blessings. And then I just ask them, would you like it? And then some people will say, yeah. And I say, well, in a bookstore, this will cost a few $1,000s. It costs us $180 to print. But for the month of Bhadra, in glorification of Srimati Radharani, the goddess of fortune, we're just asking people to pay as they like. And most students, I've had students, I met a girl at a university that was probably this tall and very, very small. And she gave $300 American for a full Srimad Bhagavatam set. And then I told her, excuse me, miss, these books are bigger than you, so I think you're going to need a cart to bring it back to your dorm. So then I had her cart, I let her borrow our cart, and then she carted it back to her dormitory or her hostel where she was living, and then she returned with the cart. Another girl, that same school, she came up to the table and she said, oh yeah, I just love reading Bhagavad Gita. And then she started telling me how much she liked Kalima. And I started telling her the story of Jadan Bharat and how Kalima cut off the heads of the dacoits. And she said, oh, I just love hearing about this type of stuff. It's just great. So then I started telling her about Nishingadev, and I told her, yeah, Nishingadev, he ripped apart Hiranyakashipu and then he wore his intestines as a garland. And she said, whatever that is, I need to buy it. So she bought a full set of Srimad Bhagavatam and took it back to her house. And this girl was super enthusiastic. I said, miss, would you like to use the cart to bring it back? She said, no, I want to carry it. And she just carried the full set back to her dorm. And then these things happen all the time. This is just, when you go out and you make it a point to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam, and you're depending on Lord Chaitanya, you're depending on the mercy which is flowing through our Guru Parampara. Miracles will take place, but we need to put ourselves in a position see them happen.
So this what you're telling is this is happening on the street.
This is happening at university campuses in America.
So I also heard there is a on weekends devotees in ISP, they go door to door.
Yes, it's called Weekend Warriors. So what they do is they have different teams of devotees. They have Western Sankirtan, they have corporate Sankirtan, they have Indian store Sankirtan, they have different types of teams which have been, this is how you organize. Srila Prabhupada said the movement will expand through organization and intelligence. So if you can organize teams of devotees with Sankirtan leaders guiding those teams and then a principal Sankirtan leader guiding the leaders of those teams, then you can expand book distribution incredibly. And they just go out on the weekend. This is practically all grihastas. My moving there and another brahmachari moving there were the first brahmacharis to be at ISV. So ISKCON of Silicon Valley is a laboratory where the activities of Sankirtan are tested, proven to work, and then distributed to the entire world. So if you have any questions about organizing and expanding Sankirtan, we can speak after class and I can put you in touch with their Sankirtan leaders and we can see what can be done in order to expand their Sankirtan.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a, I would say, insightful class on Ramayana about the fixity of the devotion of Sri Hanuman and the challenges that Sri Hanuman comes across while he's moving to Lanka, and the devotion of Mother Sita and her chastity, and the meaning of our recognizing that there are arthas, but there are hearts which are like that, can actually be killed by Lord Ram through devotion to him, the way Hanuman practiced. Thank you so much, and also incredibly thankful for the amazing Sankirtan stories, the Srimad Bhagavatam distribution in America. Thank you so much. So,